You're listening to Paris: A State of Mind on Paris Underground Radio. For more great content, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Paris Underground Radio.
Welcome to Paris: A State of Mind. Join us as we talk about the good, the bad, the ins, the outs of property rentals and purchases in and around Paris. We'll have topics for renters, owners, and visitors, share questions we are regularly asked, and more. My name is Gail Boisclair of Perfectly Paris, and my co-host is Marie Pistinier of Loquim Paris. Be a part of it. Both of us are proud members of the SPLM, the first representative body of furnished rental professionals. Hello, listeners out in the podcast world. We are coming to you with the Paris: A State of Mind episode, talking about running around the city of Paris virtually in the different arrondissements and the different areas of Paris. And today we're talking about another area that we haven't hit yet. So we have a very special guest. Some of you may know her because she's famous all the world over for all of the wonderful things that she does in Paris. And if you don't know her, well, you'll want to find out how to get to know her. So today on the show, we have Tanisha Townsend. She is the Chief Wine Officer and founder of Girl Meets Glass, a wine, lifestyle, and education agency based in Paris. Tanisha is originally from the USA, and she creates wine experiences for expats, tourists, and anyone who wants. I don't know if she does pets or children. Children are probably underage, but we can ask that question. Tanisha, welcome.
Thank you so much. And can I please compliment you on your podcast voice? That voice is amazing. I've never heard your podcast voice before. I love it. But thank you for having me here. Thank you.
So getting back to the topic at hand, what arrondissement do you currently live in, Tanisha?
I live in the 10th.
Well, you know, the 10th is, there's a lot of trendiness about the 10th. But I guess we'll find out a little bit more. And what is the closest metro station?
There are a few. For line 2 is Jaurès, which I think we'll be talking about today. For line 7, Chateau Landon. And then I also walk up to Gare de l'Est if I want the 4 or the 5.
But yeah, I think your closest one is Jaurès, and I think it's a good one to talk about. I actually have an apartment that I manage by Metro Jaurès, and it's an area that a lot of people are not familiar with. Mm-hmm. And so this is why this is really great to have you on the podcast. Well, and it's great anyway to have you on the podcast. Let me
throw
that in there. So how long have you lived in the area around Jaurès?
I've lived in that area for 3 years now. I moved in right before lockdown, the month before we went into lockdown.
I actually remember when you moved in.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. And so why did you choose to live where you do? Was it just a matter of what you found, or was it an area that you sought to be in?
Definitely was a matter of where I found an apartment. I had to hurry up and leave my other apartment because it was a sublease and the person was coming back. And this was in January. So trying to find a new apartment in January, I feel like that's always a tough time because people aren't moving. People are just coming back from the holidays and, you know, all of that kind of thing. And they aren't moving. So the 10th was actually the last place I added in because I was living in the 17th at the time. So I looked in the 17th, then I opened it up to the 18th. Then someone else said, well, open it up to the 9th. I was like, okay. So I'm looking at all these areas, not finding anything or not being accepted anywhere. So I was like, okay, fine, the 10th too. So I put in the 10th and then someone accepted my dossier. And I was like, yes, let's do it. So it's a matter of definitely where I found an apartment, not necessarily where I want it to be.
Yeah. And I mean, that's good that you prefaced that you did try all kinds of other areas before. And so even though it wasn't the choice of where you wanted to move, where you saw yourself living, do you feel the same way about that now? Or do you wish you lived in another area?
This is really a true example of everything happens for a reason, why nothing else worked out but the 10th did. Like I said, the 10th was the last addition to my search list, and now I can't imagine being anywhere else. I don't want to live in another area. I want to live where I live right now. I love this neighborhood. Don't move me anywhere.
Like, what do you love most about it? What is it that really has sold you now and made this area your home?
The canal. It's always something happening around the canal. Or even if it's not, it's just something that it inspires me to get out and walk because the canal is there. I can walk up and down the canal. There are coffee shops there, bars, restaurants. There's a movie theater that's right there. There are electric boats. And this part of Jaurès, part of it's the 10th, and then you walk a little further and you just slip into the 19th. And the electric boats, that might be a little more in the 19th. But still, you have the electric boats that you can ride on the canal. There are trees. It's the summer now, so there's Paris Plage, so they have beach chairs and they have stands up with ice cream. There are markets over there and shopping. And I have friends that live in the neighborhood. They're like, who knew? I'll meet someone. They're like, oh, I live here. I'm like, well, that's a 2-minute walk for me. Fantastic. And so there are times I literally don't even leave the neighborhood, but I get everything done. And I see people and go places. So I'm so pleased.
And do you feel that the area, it has a certain vibe for a certain type of people, like families, couples, swinging singles?
People keep saying that it has this bobo vibe, which take that how you want. I don't know what that word means still. I guess it's like bohemian, but then also something else. I'm not sure. But I do feel like it has a vibe, but I don't think it's like specifically for singles, couples, families. I feel like all of those people can coexist in this area. I feel like there's a lot to do for everyone. And then for the couples and the singles who still, want to hang out, there are plenty of restaurants, plenty of bars that you can go to, whether you are into beer, wine, coffee. I just passed an African restaurant / grocery store like a week ago. There are just so many things over here.
It's true. It's, I know when I first moved to Paris, it was kind of at the time, that was in 2001, wasn't yesterday. And it was a different vibe along the canal at the time where it was, I guess it had less bars, it had less of a nightlife at the time. And it's really turned into a very vibrant area in terms of things to do in the evening. Absolutely.
Definitely.
And I guess, is there something that you wish that you knew about living in the area that you didn't know before you moved here that our listeners should know?
Not really. I had like 20 minutes to research it before I moved in. I guess I didn't really know too much. I just knew, okay, there's a canal there, so there's water. But people did tell me things about it because you mentioned to me just, be mindful of my surroundings when I'm out in the evening. And that's something that I have always been mindful of. The Jaurès metro, with it being, that's an above ground one. So going underneath the tracks or things like that, that can be a little sketchy after dark. So that's something that I'm just mindful of. There are other ways I can get home and other streets I can take. So, I can avoid that part. No worries. But other than that, no, something I wish I knew that I don't know.
But no, I do agree to, as you said, to be mindful. But it's a big city and people sometimes forget that big cities are the same all over the world. You always have to pay attention.
Absolutely. There are always some places that you're just like, this place by day, it's one thing, by night, it's another. I'm from Chicago in the States. So Chicago definitely has a reputation of having some areas that you don't want to mess around with at certain times. So that's not something that I'm not used to. I don't have this view of big cities, especially Paris. Utopian, everything is grand and beautiful, and I could walk wherever I want at any time of the day. That's unrealistic in an actual city, a big city. So yeah, just be careful. You should take that with you wherever you go. Be careful.
It's true. I was coming, as we were saying before we started recording, I came back late last night. It was around midnight, not at the Oasis though. And I took the metro back home. And so, of course, I'm a single woman walking down the street at midnight. And it's not that I think that I'm not safe in my area. However, you do have to be aware if you're on a street and maybe there's less people around or what have you, to just pay attention. The good thing, however, about Jaurès is there are always a lot of people milling about that metro, and that's a positive thing.
Yes.
When you get out of a metro station and there's no one there, you kind of get freaked out a little bit. And when there's a lot of people there, you do have a better chance of having somebody, a good Samaritan. Most often, some guy is going to come to the rescue.
Yes.
Not that women need men to come to the rescue. By the way, all listeners in the podcast world, we can save ourselves. But there are a lot of times that I've seen men come to the rescue of women in Paris.
Absolutely. And also when there's a lot of people around like that, they aren't paying attention to you. Like they are worried about themselves and doing their own little male thing, bonding, arguing, drinking, whatever. And they're not paying attention to me. So it doesn't matter. So I get off the metro or, I need to walk by. I just walk with a purpose, like I know where I'm going, what I'm doing. And then that's that. I'm fine.
Yeah. Walk tall and carry a big stick.
I don't have a big stick.
Oh, well, we're going to get you one. Or maybe a big umbrella.
Or a little tape.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to add for our listeners about the area?
I want to say come visit it. Especially like as a tourist, I think it's a cool area to just come and see because it definitely gives you a different view of Paris. It doesn't have the same view as say like Saint-Germain or around the Arc or around the Eiffel Tower or something like that. The architecture is different. The vibe is different. The buildings look different. The kind of places you eat are different. And for people who are looking for somewhere to move and to live, I mean, I want to say come visit it because you'd like it, but then on the other hand, I'm like, no, because I don't want it to be too crowded. So take that how you want.
Here's the big question that I always ask everyone. Imagine that the magic fairy godmother of apartments comes down and says, Tanisha, you can live in any type or style of apartment you want anywhere in the city of Paris. What type of apartment would it be and where would it be located?
Definitely would want an apartment with a balcony.
Oh, yeah.
And if it did like a little slight wraparound. So I want it to be kind of high so I can look out and see stuff. I've never had an apartment with any kind of view of anything since I've lived here. It's always been like a courtyard view, or maybe I can just see the street in front of me, something like that. So I would like to be up a little higher with the view. Definitely want to have an elevator in the building. I want a kitchen separate from the living room. I like having that separation, so I would want that. I would want to be a space where I could entertain. I want the living room, dining room to have a space for a table. And I can have people for dinner. I could do wine tastings at my place because I would absolutely love to just do that. I have all these ideas for different wine and food pairings, and I want to do that. But my place doesn't really make for that, because it's all the living room, kitchen, that's all together. So I would want that separated. I want crown molding chandeliers. Okay, not grand like Versailles chandeliers, but I would want, a little more Frenchy type apartment, maybe with the French doors separating one room from another, something like that. And storage, things like that.
So a very typical Haussmannian almost type of building.
That exactly. Like I'm seeing it in my head, but of course I can't describe it the way I want to, but Haussmannian.
And what area?
You know what? I want it in the area I'm in. I don't want to be in another area now. And that's funny because I've never felt that about other places that I've been. I've lived in the 5th, the 18th, the 17th, the 11th, and the 10th. Now that I'm there, I'm like, nope, we're good here.
That's good that you've went around all those different areas. And the other areas are areas where you wanted to try to live in?
I thought so, yes. I thought like, oh, wow, the 5th in Saint Michel, that was my first apartment. I was like, oh, this is so cute and it's so busy and it's so much stuff. But then after a little bit, I was like, ew, it's so busy and so much stuff. Like that part I didn't like. It was, it was too much. But then I also think like it would be kind of cool to step out on a terrace and see the Eiffel Tower or to see the Arc de Triomphe. But then those neighborhoods don't have the same vibe or the same character that I like. Like, where am I going to get a baguette over there?
Right.
Or a croissant in the morning? Like, where is my market? It doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So,
if you're enjoying this podcast, you may enjoy our sister podcast, City of Muses. Each week, join City of Muses host Jennifer Garrity as she sits down with contemporary artists and creatives to explore what inspires them, what their creative processes are like, and how Paris fits into it all. Check out City of Muses now, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Paris: A State of Mind will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And now back to Paris, a state of mind. I think that what you just said right now is kind of important because it's almost like getting into a relationship with someone, right? You start this relationship, a romantic one we're talking about, and you love all these things about this person and you think, oh, this is so great. By the time the relationship comes to the end, usually all those things that you love drive you absolutely insane.
Yes. That's it exactly. You're like, all that stuff that was cute, those little quirks. You're like, oh my gosh, I want to push you downstairs. Like those things are annoying.
But I think it's true. And it's the same for living in an area.
Yeah.
That's good. So you would want a nice high-rise Haussmannian building with a balcony, wrap around in the 10th.
Yeah.
You never know. Keep thinking positive thoughts. Put it out there to the universe.
Right. And since I just said it out loud, hey, who knows what's going to happen next?
Exactly. Who knows who's listening? And so thank you very much, Tanisha. That was really great.
Absolutely.
I think, though, I'd like to turn it over to you now to tell the listeners more about yourself and how they can get in contact with you, what you do, what you offer, etc.
So just a little bit more about me, the Wine Lifestyle Agency, in creating experiences. I do day trips to Champagne. So if you have ever wanted to go out to Champagne, which is just a 45-minute train ride or an hour and a half, 2 hours by car, I take you out there, whisk you away, and we drink champagne, we talk history, we talk soil types, we talk the grapes, and we just have a good time. I also do wine tours in the city where we go to different wine bars, visit a caviste and things like that, just to give you kind of a crash course on French wine. A lot of people know that French wine is like the best in the world. So they come here and they want to learn more about it. And I am here to help them with that. I also do some writing, so you can find me online. They call me Girl Meets Glass. And so my website is girlmeetsglass.com. And I'm Girl Meets Glass on all forms of social media. So if you want to find out more about me or keep up with what I'm doing, things like that, that's where you can find me.
Woohoo. Well, thank you, Tanisha. This has been fabulous.
Thank you. And quick. I love a good quick. Got the information in.
Quick, to the point.
Yes.
Thanks again, Tanisha, and I hope to see you live and in person really soon.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Paris, a State of Mind, featuring Gail of Perfectly Paris and Marie of Loquim, both who are founding members of the SPLM. Paris, a State of Mind is produced by Paris Underground Radio. The music, Jazz in Paris, is by Media Right Productions. For more information on this show and others, go to parisundergroundradio.com.
This episode of Paris, a State of Mind was produced by Jennifer Garrity for Paris Underground Radio. For more great content, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Paris Underground Radio.